Alright, hey guys, Simon here, and we are making games again. I'm not actually gonna... Oh, that's a huge mountain. We don't see those very often because of the random number generator. Anyway, they get up to about that big, so you get the mountain and the clouds. Oh, and the frame rate is pretty bad too because I'm recording this. Anyway, what was I saying? I'm not gonna do any work today because this scripting stuff is a bit more complicated than I anticipated, which it always is, scripting. Anyway, I'll talk about what I've done, and that probably is going to take quite a long time anyway. So let's see. We have a velocity counter at 1 and jumping 0, and it's basically 0 for not jumping and 1 for jumping. I'm jumping as well, by the way. I don't think I talked about it in the last video, but you can jump. There's no character. Imagine there's a character here running and jumping. Just use your imagination for now. So as I said, if you double tap, then you start running. I don't know if you can hear me tapping, you probably can't. So here I'm really double tapping and the frame rate is really bad. And then if I just tap once, you jump. And you can see the jump switching to 1 and then back to 0, switch to 1 back to 0, but also because I'm not double tapping, I've stopped running. So if I want to keep running, I can double tap, jump, and then double tap. So I'm running and jumping and running and jumping. So this is working pretty much as I intended for it to work. There's a slight issue though. When you keep doing this for like a long time, for half an hour, it's really bad for your hands, just because of the repetitive motion. I don't actually think this is a good control scheme, because it basically breaks your hand with the repetitive motion. So I'm thinking maybe I need to change this, but I'll talk about that last anyway. So I managed to do that. I guess I'll explain how I managed to do that. Actually, let me just do it again. Okay, that's not too bad. No, that's correct. Right. And you probably can't actually see the jumping and the numbers up here because it's really small, and in the video that might be too low resolution unless you're watching it in HD or something. So what do we have? The script looks like that. So we have the script keyboard to velocity. Remember in the last what are we doing? That in the last video I had two scripts. This one I haven't changed at all. This is the one that sets the speed of the stuff moving across the screen. So that's all the same as the last time. And this is last time. This script basically had, if you press left, you would set the velocity multiplier lower, and if you pressed right, it would set it high, and basically that does left and right change the speed. So now we have the tapping thing setting the speed, and that made it a lot more difficult, or a lot more complex, and I guess difficult. So let's just start with variables. I mean, none of these will, I guess they kind of make sense, but so we have a variable, the time since the last tap, the time since the last D is double taps, the last time since the last double tap, the time of this tap. I don't think this is actually necessary, but I used it anyway. And then the time of this double tap. So we're distinguishing between single taps and double taps, obviously, because a single tap is jump and a double tap is run, right? So we have a variable tap count at 0, and that later we'll see that it's used to count whether it's 1 or 2, and 2 obviously is double tap, 1 is a single tap. So we have variable jumping, so whether or not we're jumping, that's I don't know if this script is the best way to do it, but this is what works. This is what I figured out. There might be a better way of doing this. So jumping is either 0 or 1, either you're jumping or you're not. Jump start time is the start of the jump, because jumping takes time and you want to change the way the script works depending on whether you're in the air or not. Obviously there's no animation for it yet, so it's kind of confusing maybe. So the static variable jump script activated. I'm thinking, so the static variable, if you remember, means that the variable can be accessed from outside this script, so another script can access that variable. So that would say that, okay, we're activating the jump script. Therefore, if there's another script, I don't know what's going to be yet, jumping, I don't know why, but if there's another script that controls whether or not you're jumping, then this variable will activate that script, or rather that script will look for this variable to change, and then it will activate. So those are the, I guess, what do you call it? These are the kind of the mechanical variables, the variables that you need to actually, these are the numbers that the program needs to sort out within itself. These are the settings, basically. So you have the velocity sprint. The sprint speed is 4, the running speed is 3, the jogging speed is 2, walking speed is 1. And the reason I put these as variables is so that if I want to change these multipliers, I can change them here in one place. Whereas, I'll use these numbers later on. So here velocity run, sprint, jog, run, walk and jog. So I'm using these numbers anyway. So instead of putting 4, 3, 2 and 1 in all these places, and then if I want to change the multiplier later, I have to change all these numbers. I'm using the variable instead. So then if I want to change how the game behaves, I can just change these 4 numbers, and then it will change like how the rest of all of this works. So this is, I guess it makes it easier to change things in the future, and I guess that's good programming practice too. Like if you have something that you think you might change later, instead of putting the numbers directly into the script itself, you put the numbers into a variable, and you put the variable into the script, so that you can change it here and reuse it multiple times later on, and not have to worry about getting it wrong later. So, and then the same for here. So we have the double tap speed. So that's the delay in seconds, or the maximum delay for the double tap. So if you tap twice within 0.3 of a second, then it counts as a double tap. Tap delay sprint, tap delay run, and tap delay jog. So that's basically the time between the double taps, and it's 1, 1.5, and 2. These are in seconds again. So if you double tap, and each double tap is within 1 second of each other, then you're sprinting. So again, I can change these numbers here, and then they'll change how everything else behaves below. So if I change that to like 2, that means that if you tap it within 2 seconds of each other, then it'll count as sprinting. Anyway, so that's those variables, and then variable jump duration is 1. And that, I don't know, I haven't worked out the jumping yet, so for now I'm guessing jumping will take 1 second to complete. And that's important too, because the jump duration, when you're jumping, you're not doing anything else, or when you're jumping, you're not counting other things. So during that duration, we will see later on that it's used to basically cancel other parts of the script as you're jumping. Well, not cancel other parts, cancel certain parts of it, because you're still counting double taps as contributing to your maintaining your run speed, but you're cancelling other jumping. So when you're jumping in the air, you're not jumping again. Anyway, we'll see that later on. And of course the static variable, velocity multiplier, which is obviously what we're passing to this one, the particle speed. So that sets how quickly things move past, right? So those are all the variables. And then at the start of the program, we say velocity multiplier equals velocity walk. So at the start velocity multiplier at walking speed. So again, we're using the variables here. So we start with the velocity multiplier at 1. So at the start of the script, you're walking. And then function update. So for every frame of the program, the first one here, activate the jump script is if jumping and not double tapping. Which is kind of crazy, right? Because we haven't even gotten any taps yet. But so if jumping equals 1, and if jump script activated 0, so if you are jumping, or if you're supposed to be jumping, and you're not already jumping, and the time, this is how you do time, by the way. Let me just go to the Unity script reference. So time.time, the time this frame has started. This is the time in seconds since the start of the game. So how long since the start of the game? So that's used as a clock in this program. So if the current time minus the time of this tap is greater than the double tap speed, then you activate jump, which means that the last tab, well, not the last. There's this tab and last tab. Basically, it's the last two tabs. Maybe it's not named properly. So basically, it's the last tab and the tab before, but I called it this tab and the last tab. So if the latest tab, so if the current time minus the time of the last tab is greater than the double tap speed, which here it's set as 0.3. So then if the the time between the two tabs is greater than the double tap speed, which means it's a single tap. Like if it's not a double tap, then it's a single tap, then you activate the jump script. So if you're supposed to be jumping, if you're not already jumping, and if you're not double tapping, then you jump. And then you set the last double tap time as the current time, because as you are jumping, you're not losing speed. This will make more sense later on, but just keep in mind that as you're jumping, you're not counting the space between the last double tap. Like you're moving the counted last double tap forward until the jump ends. If that makes not until jump ends. And yeah, no. You put the time of actually I might change that. Oh, that's why it does what it does. Okay. Let's see. I might change this. Jump activation counts as a double tap. I think what I'll do is the end of the jump counts as, anyway, okay, so the jump activation counts as double tap. So because the frequency with which you double tap means how quickly you run, but you have to stop double tapping in order to jump. What will happen if I don't have this is that if I jump, then you'd immediately slow down because you stop double tapping. So what I'm doing here is that if you double tap to run and then you tap once and you stop and the thing jumps, and that will give you time to resume double tapping afterwards, because the jumping itself counts as a double tap for the game, so that you're not forced to lose speed as you're jumping, which is what I want. Right. And also when you I don't know if you can keep track of all this. I can't. I can barely keep track of all of this. So if you activate the jump, then your tap count is equal to 0. So remember, the tap count is counting whether you're single tapping or double tapping. So if you activate the jump, which means if you activate the jump, then you're not doing anything else, so that resets the tap count to 0 to restart counting whether you're jumping or not. That's kind of important too, but not in an obvious way. Alright, so that's the first part. The second part is stop jump after jump duration. So if the current time minus the jump start time, remember that's that somewhere else, sorry, is greater than the jump duration, then jump script activated 0. So when you single tap, you start the jump start time, the timer. So if enough time has passed so that it's greater than the jump duration, then you deactivate the jump script. So you switch it, you activate it here, you deactivate it here, switch to 1 activate, switch to 0 deactivate. And I just changed that just so that the end of the jump also counts as a double tap. Because what I had before, what you would do is double tap, and jump, but you had to double tap in the air if you wanted to keep running after you land, which is probably not what I want to do. Actually, if I do that, you might increase velocity in the air, because the jump duration is 1 second, which means the game will count 2 double taps within 1 second of each other and actually make you sprint if you're not sprinting. And oh no, see, this is so complicated. This is so, oh, actually, actually no, this is fine, So when the jump script is activated, you don't actually slow down. So it's only, okay, I'll leave that until the end. I think I'll have to test this. I think this is gonna work the way I want. Alright, so the next part. So you'd think, why do I put this at the start? I don't actually know it works. I think it's meant to be at the start. I think it'll conflict with stuff that's down at the bottom. So put that at the start. So because this script runs every update, so every frame it runs. And this jumping stuff, it's basically receiving the jump command from the last frame. So if you imagine you go through the whole script once, and then at the bottom of that script, you set the jumping to 1, then at the next frame, you detect that you're jumping. So that's how I've done it. I don't actually know if that's the best way to do it. Like if you press it, should you jump on this frame or should you jump on the next one? I don't know. Alright, so the next part is tap detection. If input any key down, that's how you, well, any key basically, that's how you detect whether any key has been pressed. Let's see, script reference. And so input. So you get input using input, basically. Why is that so slow? Is my internet slow? What's going on? Come on. Come on. Input. So input. So there's a whole lot of stuff here that you can do. So the last time we used get axis to get the horizontal axis, left and right, which is not what I want. So you can get any key. Is any key or mouse button currently held down? Any key down is returned true the first frame the user hits any key or mouse button. So this is, if you hold the key down, it will count as true. That is only true when you first press it down, which is more useful for me. So if you press and hold, it won't count as a double tap. Because remember, if the double tap is whether the key is being pressed between those two time frames. If I used any key and I just hold the key down, it will count everything as double tapping, because every single frame will return as true for any key, whereas any key down, it will only return true on the first frame that you press the key. So that's something I was very careful to make sure I got that one right. So any key down. So if you tap anything, then the time of this tap equals the current time. So this tap is when you press the key down, and then tap count equals tap count plus 1. So tap count is usually 0 by default. So the moment you press a key, your tap count turns to 1. So then the next part activates only on the second tap of a double tap. So if the time of this tap minus the time of last tap is smaller than or equal to the double tap speed, and the tap count is greater than or equal to 2, then you run this. So if the last two taps was close enough to be within the double tap speed, and the tap count is 2, then you run it. So you have to have pressed 2 taps quickly to activate this. So jumping equals 0, so obviously if you're running, you're not jumping. I don't know if that's obvious or not, but that's how it should be. So when you're double tapping, you adjust the velocity. So the time of this double tap equals to the current time. So now that you know that it's a double tap, so you say this double tap is the current time, and the tap count equals 0. So now that you've double tapped, you reset the counter to 0. So as I said earlier, like the default is 0. So every time you do something, you reset the double tap count to 0. See how if you, okay, we're double tapping, now reset the count, or if now we're jumping, we reset the count. So every time you recognize to have done something, you reset the count to 0. And then if the time of this double tap minus the time of the last double tap is shorter than the sprint duration, which means you're tapping really quickly, then if you're running, then you switch to sprinting. If you're jogging, you switch to running. If you're walking, you switch to jogging. So basically you're incrementing upwards. So if you're tapping quick enough to sprint, then whatever speed you are now, you go 1 faster. If the spacing between the last two double taps is smaller than the run delay. So that's the sprint, that's the run. So if you're tapping fast enough to run and you are sprinting, then you slow down to running. Or else, if you are tapping fast enough to run but you're currently jogging, then you speed up to running. Or else, if you're tapping fast enough to run and you're walking, then you speed up to jogging. Does that make sense? Basically, whatever speed you're tapping at, you'll increment towards that speed from the two extremes. So if you're too fast, you slow down. If you're too slow, you speed up, basically. And we do that again and again. So that's sprinting, running, jogging. Or else, if you're not double tapping quickly enough to do any of that, then you're slowing down from sprint to a run, from run to a jog, from jog to a walk, depending on what sprint or what speed you're currently at. So whenever you double tap, you're adjusting the speed, depending on how quickly you're double tapping. And then once you've done all that, you say the time of the last double tap equals to the time of this double tap, and the time of the last tap equals to the time of this tap. So you're setting up for the next cycle. So remember here, we're comparing the last double tap with this double tap. But where's the last double tap? The last double tap actually comes in here. So now that you've set the speed, for the next time, you're making what you've just done the time of the last double tap, so that when you cycle through this again on the next frame, you'll compare with the last time, if that makes sense. So just keep in mind that this script is not, you don't go through it once. You actually repeat it over and over and over again. And so a lot of these variables, they seem back to front, but that's because it goes in a circle. So no matter where you put it, it's going to come back to it at some point. Right? Does that make sense? I don't know. Anyway, so you set. Now that you've counted the double taps, you say, okay, now for the next time, we call the last double tap the one that we just did. So, okay, so all of that if it's double tapping. So if you're not double tapping, or else, and then these things are like nested loops or nested if conditions. So if you're pressing a key down, and if you're doing this, and if this, and if it's this, then you do this. So there's a lot of conditions here going on. Let's see. So if you're double tapping, you do that. So come all the way down to here. If you kind of just, I'm actually pointing to the column, but you can't see it because you don't record my finger, you record the screen. So I'm kind of pointing to this side of the screen. So you follow that if down to here. So if you're not double tapping, and not already jumping, then jump. So if tap count equals 1, remember the single tap, so the tap count is 1, and the jump script is not activated, then jumping equals 1. And the jump start time equals the current time. So if you've tapped once, it's not a double tap, and you're not already jumping, then you say jumping 1 here, and you set the jump start time as here. You don't activate the jump script here, because you activate the jump script here because there's more conditions to it. Because you're conditionally having to. So if jumping 1, so again it goes around in circles, right? So if you get to there, in the next frame, you'll detect jumping. And then you detect it's not double tap, and then you activate the jump script there. I'm not actually sure if that's necessary. I think it is. Like I was trying out, because I was, it didn't work at first when I first designed it. So I think that's necessary. I'm not 100% sure why. I need to really think about this to really figure it out. But anyway, so here you're telling the next frame to jump. That's what that means. Next frame, we're jumping, and the start of the jump time is set here. And so if you're not, so if the jump script is activated, or the tap count is somehow not 1, that's actually not possible. So if the jump script is in fact activated already, then you just don't do anything. You actually set the jump things to 0. You don't need to do that, I don't think. I think that's actually redundant anyway, that doesn't hurt anyone. But you set the tap count to 0, so if nothing's happening, you set the tap count to 0, and then you say the time of the last tab is the time of this tab, and then you go to the next part. So let's see. So if you're not tapping anything, so this else is matched with this one. So if you're not actually pressing any keys at all, if you're not doing anything, you're not jumping, you increment towards walking. So if you just take your hands off the controls completely, you'll slow down to walking speed. So if the current time minus the time of the last tap is greater than the sprint delay, and the jump script is not activated, and the velocity multiplier is equal to sprint, then you slow down to a run. So if you have taken your keys off, so if you haven't pressed anything for as long as the sprint delay or the sprint double tap delay, I'm kind of losing track of myself here, and you're not jumping and you're sprinting, then you slow down to a run. If the delay is longer than the running delay, and you're not jumping and you're running, then you slow down to a jog. The same for the jog, slowing down to a walk. And then if the current time minus the last tap is greater than the double tap speed, let's set the tap count to 0. So if you've somehow pressed the key, I don't think that's necessary neither. I'm not actually sure if that's actually needed. But if you somehow set the tap count to some other number, but you're not double tapping because this is greater than the double tap speed, then just set it to 0. I think some of this stuff is actually not necessary, but because it works, I don't want to break it again, so I just left it. Anyway, so I've changed this. So do you follow all that? No, I don't follow all that neither. Maybe you can watch all of this again. That's crazy. Okay, I want to save. So that's been saved. I want to test this, because now the end of the jump also counts as a double tap. Let me see if that makes, let me see if this breaks the game at all. So build and I need to close this first. And this is really slow because we are recording. Well, I hope I'm recording. Am I still recording? Okay, recording. See, this has been half an hour already. That's how long this stuff takes. Come on, you can do it. Actually, that doesn't... Oh yeah, that's right, sorry, my bad. Alright, so let's play this. See if we break anything or not. Right? Come on, come on. Alright, so we jump. Alright, so we double tap, double tap, double tap. So now we're sprinting, because the double taps are... Oh, I need to pay attention. Am I randomly jumping or not? Sometimes you see the jumping go to 1. I don't know. Is it my misinput? Or is it really... I don't think that made any difference in the script. I mean, you can still run and then jump and then run and then jump and then run and then jump. You still have to... That's interesting. You still have to keep jumping. I mean, you still have to keep double tapping when you're in the air if you want to keep running when you land. Obviously, you don't see any characters here, so it's kind of abstract. You're just imagining something running and jumping. I don't think that actually made any difference to how the script performs. This tab, last tab, double tap speed. This double tap equals time. Last double tap equals time. See, when you deactivate, if the jump script is not activate, Wait. Oh, I see. I see. That kicks in right away. That kicks in right away. I know what I can do. I can add another condition to this, which is basically the same thing, but this one I'll change that to double tap, because because this is a double tap, not a single tap. So even though we set the double tap, so we kind of increment the double, not increment, but we basically set the double tap time to when the jump ends. But here we don't check the double tap, we only check the single tap and whether the jumping. So the jump ends and you immediately slow down because you're not checking for the time of the last double tap. So now if we do this, then if the time of the last tap is greater than the delay, the sprint tap delay, and if the last double tap is greater than the last sprint delay. I think that's a really bad way to do this, like it's a really inefficient or like a really confusing way to do the script, but I'm gonna do it anyway because I believe it's going to work. So last double tap, oops, double tap. That should do what we wanted to do. Let's just check, because I want to do is like when you jump, you can just not. I'm trying to make this more intuitive. I mean, it's pretty not intuitive already, but when you're running, like, or when you're in the air, you don't expect to have to run in the air in order to maintain your velocity, right? Like I'm talking about real world physics here. In the real world, if you jump, you don't lose speed in the air because there's not much friction. You only lose speed if you're landing on the ground and you don't keep running. So I want it so that you translate that into the game so that when you're in the air, you don't need to tap at all to maintain your speed when you land. So only after you land do you start to lose speed. That's what I'm trying to do here, to make the controls a bit more intuitive, or make the controls so that it's more like what you would expect it to behave. Is this thing crashed? No, it's just slow. Okay. I don't know why it's so slow. I might have something going on in the background that I don't know about. It's still working though, so I'm just going to keep going with it. And this video is going to be fairly long already, and that's why I'm not doing any work, because this stuff's so complicated. Even explaining this is going to take a whole video. Alright, so we run. So we're running. Yes, so the jumping is activating, and it's not supposed to be, and I think it's probably me, and I'm not timing the tapping properly, but it's really finicky. So you jump. Okay, it's broken. It's completely broken, because you see that I'm not touching anything and we're not losing speed. I'm not touching anything and we're not losing speed. So I've broken the script. Well, good job. Good job. If the time of the last tap is greater than the sprint delay, and the time of the last double tap is greater than the sprint delay, and we're not jumping, and the velocity multiplier equals... Why? Oh! This, it stops, it's supposed to stop jump after the jump duration. but it doesn't check. It doesn't check. Like, it will stop. It'll set this every time you stop jumping. Oh, no. It'll set. Or the problem is it sets this. Like, the fact that it turns the script off every single frame, it's kind of stupid, but it doesn't matter. What matters is that every single frame where the jump duration is longer, or where the current time is longer than the jump duration, it would do it. What we want to do is conditionally. So if the current time minus the jump start time is longer than the jump duration, and you are actually jumping, jump script activated equals 1. So only if you're jumping, so if you've passed the jump duration and you're jumping, then you stop jumping. So if you pass the jump duration but you're not jumping, then you ignore this. That's why it didn't work. I had that happen before, like you run and then you take your hands off and you keep running, and I couldn't figure out why it was. I think this is why. So let's build and run. So yeah, scripting. Well, it's good that fail. What's going on? It's good that I've figured this out. So I keep doing this. Like, I keep doing equals, because this is, I used to do a bit of basic, and you don't have to do the double equal sign. If you're comparing things, you have to do the double equal sign. If you're setting the variable, you use a single double equal sign. So here we're saying jump script activated is now 0, and here we're saying whether or not jump script activated is 1. So this is comparing, this is setting, and that's the single and double. I always do that. Anyway, this should be fine. I think that should be fine. Can I clear this? Yeah, that should be fine. Compile, and come on, we can do this. Okay, so this is the boring stuff, because you're just kind of looking for basically spelling mistakes or like typos. I think I will include this file for you to download. I'll make a download link for you guys to, so if you guys want to tap away at my little game, you can do so, even though there's not much game to it right now, right? But you know, you can see how the code works. So we jump. Wait a minute, we're running. Tap, double tap, jump, double tap, jump, double tap. Yeah, so the jumping detection is actually, I'm actually kind of deliberately trying to spam the keys just to make sure that it's doing what I want. It's jumping when I'm not wanting it to. I think the double tap, I think it's because double tap duration is too short. So you miss the double tap and it counts as single tap. Yeah, so it's better now. It's changed in that. Yeah, you're not losing speed in the air, but it's counting random taps. I think this needs to be longer. I think that's what the problem is. But 0.5 has always seemed too long. Let's try 0.4. So this is not important. The script essentially works. This is more fine-tuning it to make the controls feel better for the player. Is this crashing? Oh, please don't crash. What's going on? Did that crash? No, that still works. That's misclicked. Okay, that's fine. Okay. Build and run. Yeah, so I'll let you download this quote-unquote game, and so you guys can tap away at the keyboard a bit just to see the effects of the scripts that I'm describing. And also, I think maybe you can like do a bit of testing for me as well. Like if you find any major bugs, then please tell me. I don't think so. I've been testing this, but if you find anything wrong, or if you had any comments about just how bad it is to spam these keys for hours at a time, then by all means do so. Okay, so I think we're getting less of the random. No, actually, there they are. Yeah, so if you don't have the rhythm down under control, you just randomly jump, because it is very finicky. The timing, like half a second timing, and you have to double tap. If you triple tap, you'll jump. So it's actually really, I don't know. The controls are really. The good thing is, wait a minute. Oh god damn it! We're still running. I've stopped tapping and we're still running. I was gonna say the good thing is that you just slow it down. You don't actually lose the game or anything. If you lose the game, that would be pretty bad. So you can't lose the game. All you do is slow it down. What's going on? What's going on? What's... Oh! Wait. This, I see. It's not lowering down. This should not be AND. This should this be AND? No. No, that should be AND. Tab delay sprint. The current time minus the last tap is greater than the tap delay sprint. The current time minus the last double tap is greater than the tap delay sprint. If you're jumping and the jump script is not activated, then you set the last double tap time. If you're longer than the jump duration and the jump script is activated, then you set the last double tap time. But if either of those cases are not true, then the last double tap time... Oh, wait, should those be inside the other brackets? Activates only on the second tap. No, that's right. That's jumping. Then the last double tap. Oh, wait a minute. Otherwise, if not double tap, so if you've tapped, time this tap equals time, tap count equals 0. Is this in the right place? Time this tap equals time, else time last tap equals time this tap. If tap, should this be outside? I don't think it matters because there's the else here, so if or else, so it doesn't really matter whether it's inside or outside. It's gonna run anyway. Or else, so if you're not tapping, if wait a minute. If input any key down, this is not. Oh, this is my YouTube. If any key down returns true the first frame the user hits any key or button. Okay. So on the first frame that you hit a button, so if you're past that frame, then the delay of the last tap is longer than the tap delay sprint. The time on the last double tap is longer than the tap delay sprint. And the jump script activated equals 0. Wait. Jumping equals 1. Else jumping equals 0. Wait, this is only counting if you tap something. Jumping equals 0 should be here. Jumping equals 0. Tap count equals 0, jumping equals 0, and then if you tap again, and you know, jumping equals 0. I think that's the problem, because if we don't turn off the jumping here, actually that doesn't matter because that's not going to activate the next frame anyway. No, that doesn't matter, does it? I've completely messed up the script now. And jump script activated equals 1. Huh. Should jumping equals 0 be up there? Save. I don't know what I'm doing. I really don't know what I'm doing. I can't keep track of all these variables, man. Okay, let's see what happens here. Because what's happening now is if you just spam the keys and you let go, you keep running for some reason. Is it because somewhere we're not resetting the tap count? Is that what it means? That can't be right. look, okay, look. We speed up and we slow down. We speed up, jump, run, and we slow down. We spam the keys, and then we slow down. Okay. Spam the keys, mash the keyboard, and then we slow down. Okay, that should be fine. That should be fine. Mash keys. That's interesting though. Like if you just mash the keyboard, you can run. And then you slow down. Okay, that's fascinating. So let me just. Well, okay, I don't know what's going on, but let me just save that and. You guys can play around with that. And as I said, I'm not gonna do anything extra. What is that? Like a 50-minute video already. Crazy. So, should I keep that or not? I'm not sure I like that particular control scheme. I mean, I've done all that to make it work, but now that I have and I've tested it, and you know, don't be afraid to admit that your stuff is crap. Because if it's crap, then it's crap. You have to admit it's crap in order to convince yourself to do a better job. So I'm admitting that, you know, tapping, like double tapping any key for an extended period of time is not actually fun games. So I'm going to change it so that you don't have to keep tapping as quick. I'm going to have, if you imagine you have a momentum variable, so you need to double tap to build momentum, and the momentum will slowly decrease. But let's say once you reach top speed, you only have to double tap occasionally to maintain momentum. So you don't have to keep tapping furiously to keep sprinting. Once you are sprinting, you can tap less frequently and you'll keep running. So I'm hoping that would make the control slightly less injury inducing. And also, when we do that, I guess it's kind of unintuitive as well. So I'm gonna try to add a bar or a meter or some sort of visual cue as to how much momentum you've accumulated and how quickly that's decreasing. So that's something else I have to add. Oh, I guess the one last thing is the script basic GUI. That's the graphical user interface, the GUI. So you might have noticed. Let me go back. The thing on the top left corner, there's a graphical user interface, which isn't really graphical, but up here there's velocity 1 and jumping 0. So that's the interface, and if you want to script it, you have to do the function on GUI. So we have, even here we need variables. So we have the velocity GUI, jump GUI, so these are strings. So it will only accept like a single string. I even tried to like have multiple strings, and it's I don't know how it works, but it's a bit strange to me. So you have the strings for the GUI, for the GUI, and then you have velocity local and jump local. These are basically the local variables of whether you're jumping and what your velocity is. So on every frame you get the static variables from keyboard to velocity. You say the velocity multiplier, you copy that to velocity local, you copy the jump script activated, whether the jump script is activating, you copy that to jump local, and then you combine it with a string. Inside the double quote marks is the string. So it's velocity colon then the number which you got from that variable, and then jumping colon, and then you get the number from that variable, and then on function on GUI box rectangle. So these numbers position the thing on screen. It's so the top left corner is 10, 10, and then it's like 100. I think these are pixels. I'm not sure if it's 30 pixels. 100 pixels long and 30 pixels tall, and then inside that you you write this, so the velocity plus that number, so that writes stuff to it. I'm gonna add an extra one. GUI box, rectangle. Yes, you have position as Unity Engine rectangle, text as string, and then the void, whatever. So I'm going to, let me look up this. I wanna GUI box. So we have that, and the GUI box, the graphical box. So rectangle 0, 0, screen width, screen height. These are the things that I need. Screen width, the current width of the screen window in pixels. Screen height, the actual height of the player window. Okay, so I'm gonna put something on the bottom right hand corner. So what I want is screen width. So screen width minus, I don't know, 200, 300, what's 300 pixels? 200? Screen height minus 30, and then obviously then we have the width 200, height 30, and the string by Simon, my name, do not sell. You are not allowed to sell my crappy game at all. Right. Do not sell. You're allowed to copy it. You're allowed to copy it, play it, do whatever you want with it. You are not allowed to sell it. Wait a minute, did I not save this last time? I hope that still works. I hope that still works. You save this, and oh, semicolon. And I keep forgetting this as well. Semicolon at the end. Save. Oh, by the way, this thing down here tells you any error. Integer, string. I don't even know. Oh, I see. Rectangle, comma. I think I can do this. I don't think I need that. I can just do this, I think. Yeah, so the brackets were in the wrong place. You want the brackets at the end of the... I hope that's it. Clear? Okay. Clear? Run? Yes, you can copy it, play it, do whatever. Don't sell it. Don't sell it. Other than that, do whatever. I doubt anyone would buy it. Alright, let's see. Actually, I don't think you can see the bottom of the screen because... oh, it's in the wrong place anyway. Yeah, you can't see the bottom of the screen because the top of that is actually there. You just squish that up. Do not... okay, so it needs to be longer than 200 pixels. 300 pixels. Alright, let me just spam some keys. And you slow down. Okay, you spam keys. You jump. And you jump. And you jump. See, I'm single tapping. I finally got this. I was trying to do this last time. Oh, well, not last video, but when I was working on this, I was trying to get it so that you can just keep jumping and not slow down. I finally got that to work just now. Great. Alright, so there's that, and this obviously needs to be longer than 200 pixels. Save that and run again. So basically that's how you do the graphical user interface, or that's the basics of it. I mean, I'm just putting boxes up and putting text into it, so that's not too difficult. But if you want to, you know, show things in the graphical user, you can put buttons in as well. It's an actual, you know, interface. You can define buttons and get variables and scripts from the player and whatnot. So it's I guess it's a fairly basic set of tools. I don't know how much more complicated it gets aside from that. So that's 300 pixels. Maybe I only need 250 pixels. Can you see that on the bottom? So by me, do not sell. Alright. That's interesting. You can just keep jumping. So even if you're not at maximum velocity, the jumping actually allows you to maintain whatever speed you're at quite easily. Like this, I think you really need a graphical representation of your momentum, because like if you want to say maintain your velocity at 3, it's actually really hard to gauge without some visual cue. Like maintaining a rhythm. Okay, I'm doing it now. Okay, oops, I missed it. So it's actually quite difficult if you don't have a visual cue. That's interesting. Alright, I guess I'll stop it there. Well, in the next part, should I really change it to momentum, or should I just have a visual cue? I guess I'll save a copy of this in case I want to turn it back. So I tried the momentum thing, and I add in a visual cue of your momentum. That might, I don't know how long that's going to take. But I'll do that, and then I'll show you the results next time if I have results to show. Alright, that's it, I guess. That was interesting.